Before we get started, if you're enjoying this content, you can do us a favor by subscribing to our YouTube channel and ringing the bell. That'll let the algorithm know that you like this content and it will help us produce more.
Your main advantage against these massive companies is your speed and your ability to iterate and try different things.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest E-commerce. Today we are welcomed by two amazingly smart entrepreneurs and very nice gentlemen. They let me reschedule this because of some technical issues, so I can't thank them enough for that. So today we're welcoming to the show Rob and Raja. I will keep the product a secret for a second. It's a very good one, but before we get into the product and launching a very unique brand direct to consumer, let's talk a bit about you guys' backgrounds and what got you here. So Rob, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, sure. I was born and raised in Maryland, right outside DC, and I went to University of Maryland for undergrad. And while I was in school, I joined the Marines because I just it's something I had to do. And it took a year off of school to take part in the invasion of Iraq in 2003. So punched through Kuwait, took Baghdad, ran missions down south after the invasion, and then, came back to school. After I came back, I graduated, moved to New York, did investment banking for a few years with UBS, and then decided that I just always wanted to do an Ironman Triathlon, and I always wanted to live in South America, so I just put both of those together. So I trained in the mountains in Ecuador for 6 months. I trained in the mountains in Colombia for 6 months. And I finished the race out in Brazil, came back to New York, worked at Goldman Sachs on the prop desk for a bit, and then went to Wharton for business school, which is where I met Raja. And then but after school, I just decided I want to start my own company. So at the same time, I wanted to live in Korea. So I moved to Korea just to kind of look at different ideas, meet different people. And that's where I met my co-founders for my previous company. It was called Slidejoy. It was an app. Moved back to New York, started that company. After a few years, sold it to a Korean company. I headed up the US office for that company for a few years. But along the way, I was just kind of thinking, well, what's a good consumer product, like a physical product versus like an app, a piece of software. Because I felt like that has just a little bit more character and personality behind it. But before I go on, I think maybe our intro of Raja would be good.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. So yeah, I'm originally from Queens, New York. My parents moved to Southern California when I was 11 years old and pretty much have been in California since then. I went to UCLA for undergrad, and after college, like Rob, I worked in investment banking for a couple of years. Really great experience, really kind of a tough, rigorous place to work. At the same time, very quickly realized I was not going to want to do that for the rest of my life. Ended up working for a company that did financing of major Hollywood films. So I ended up working for them, kind of building out financial models and kind of financing some of the top films from 2008 to 2010 that I was there. Realized, I didn't necessarily want to do that either. Also went to business school where Rob and I were in the same section. And then after business school, I also thought, I want to work in technology. I ended up working at Facebook and Instagram post-acquisition for about 5 years. Worked with some of the largest advertisers in the world and helped them kind of plan and prepare and use the tools available on Facebook and Instagram to build their own marketing channels and build, acquire customers and do the same things that kind of, we've been doing, but obviously on a much smaller scale. Worked there for about 5 years, was, great time, but also realized, thinking back to even my original jobs in investment banking and other places, I always wanted to be on the other side of the table. Like I always was more interested in learning what the the companies are doing or what our clients are doing, rather than being the person advising them or being the person that's kind of working with them, helping them raise money, that sort of thing. So, I wanted to start something, and my family background, my entire family is pretty much in the apparel industry, but nobody's ever really created a brand. And so, but it was really about selling physical products, importing, exporting, that sort of thing. So while I've been around that world, I knew I wanted to do something in e-commerce. And then Rob kind of approached me with this idea, because I told him I was leaving Facebook, and he was just like, all right, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Before we get to that idea, I do want to ask you guys a very specific question, because it's very rare that I have two co-founders on the show at the same time. So and this might be a something that a lot of our listeners are experiencing now with, should I have a co-founder? And if so, like, how does the division of power work, or what are some of the best practices in finding a co-founder for like a direct consumer CPG brand?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I looked at Raj, I was like, hey, man, you have great hair. And I mean, obviously, I have great hair too, so we should just do something together, And no, seriously, though, I think what we found is that it's just complementary skill sets. I think that's what you need to look for. I actually teach a class on entrepreneurship at NYU, and one of the things that I preach is I say, look, like, figure out what you need in terms of skills in order to get to where you want to get with the company. And then you have to know yourself. You have to understand what are your limitations, what are your strengths, what are your interests, and then check the boxes of what the skills are that you have for what the company needs. And then there's going to be a big list of things that like you're just not good at or interested in, or that you don't know well, and find somebody or people who do fill in those blanks. And I think that's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who could build a product, who is able to market very well, who's able to also do operations and knows how to run a business from a financial standpoint, focusing on metrics, then and you have all the time in the world, then by all means, But if you don't have everything there, then it's going to be tough. Not to say that there aren't very successful, solo founders out there. And it's also a matter of at what point of the stage of the company do you need what type of skill, right? And if you're able to start as a solo founder, get it to a point where you could attract another founder, but where you need that skill at that moment, then, like that's another way to do it. But, sorry, that was a little long winded, but, I don't want to derail the conversation too much.
Yeah, I can just I'll cap that off with, I think these days it's totally possible to be a solo founder, sourcing products, especially in e-commerce. I mean, with Shopify being so dominant, you can plug in so many different apps to Shopify that can control a lot of what you're doing. You can use a 3PL. You can use so many ways to just outsource a lot of the work required. But I think for us, it's a lot about, it's also about trust. It's also about, a willingness to just kind of dig in, and then also have someone along there for the ride. I mean, I've definitely seen friends and, people in my family also who are solo founders, and it gets lonely, like entrepreneurship is hard. Startups are hard. Having other people there with you is just, it's sometimes, it can be a lot more fun. It could be a lot more collaborative. And sometimes when you are just kind of on that island on your own, there's a lot of power, but then there's also, when things get rough, it's, you're going to be seeking help outside a little bit. And I think, with us, we just have I don't think we covered every single skill that Rob mentioned when we started, but we had a willingness to just learn, and a trust that the other person is going to learn this thing and do it, 80-90% as well as an expert in that world. And so I think the willingness to just pick different things up and say like, hey, I'm not great at legal. I don't even enjoy it, but I'll deal with the lawyers, I'll deal with all of this trademark stuff that we're doing, and we'll just let's just, the rest of the things just keep going while I work on this.
Absolutely. You guys shared a lot of amazing stuff there. I think that some of the highlights were, you definitely want a founder the yin to your yang, I guess. Like you don't want two highly technical co-founders, because then you have the same skills that you could both be working on, and then where you're lacking, you're both lacking. So it doesn't really make the best match, I guess. That's something I kind of wanted to highlight. And then trust, like Raja talked about. You need to date this person honestly. Yeah. Like you can't dive into a business partnership without knowing somebody really, because I think I talked to my co-founder more than I talked to some previous girlfriends. Like it's a very hands-on relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I think we can kind of pivot to the product a bit, because I guess relationships have a lot to do with your product. So Rob, you saw a gap in the market, I guess. I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, I saw a gap in the market and decided to attack it. So we sell condoms. And the way we got there is, I was working in corporate America, and I realized that my sense of humor is not appropriate for a professional setting. So decided that, I was thinking about what's a product that would be conducive to me making dick jokes all day. And, condoms were it, right? So, basically, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you use condoms, but everybody who uses condoms hates condoms, right? Like, no, I don't think anybody out there is like, oh, I love using condoms. Like nobody likes using condoms. And I was just, I was single for like 13 years. I'm happily married now, but I was single for like 13 years. I'm like, I hate using condoms. And I'm like, why is that? And I did a little digging. And I've tried condoms from, different countries or whatever too. And I realized that the condoms in America just suck. Right. And they don't have to suck. And I was looking into kind of why. And, what I found was that there's 3 companies that are 90% of the market. And they're all over 100 years old. So, generally older companies are not as innovative, especially if they're entrenched in the market. Right. So they don't have an incentive to provide the market a good product. They're in every single pharmacy chain. They're at your drugs, at the convenience store that you pick up condoms. Like they're just ubiquitous, right? Like I walked in college to a CVS, and everything that I saw on the rack was pretty much just Trojan. They're 70% of the market. And so I was for 10 years I was just using Trojans, and I never thought twice about it because that was literally the only option that I had. But then, after trying different condoms, I was like, whoa, like it doesn't have to be this way. So that was something that was attractive, to me. And then, the other side is, on the branding side, right? Like Trojan Man, he kind of epitomizes what toxic masculinity is, right? Like you have to sound or be a certain type of way to be considered manly. And, you look at me, I'm not like a big dude, like I'm a skinny guy. Right. And I struggled, when I was younger with like, oh, am I manly enough? Right. Like, and I think that kind of led me to kind of overshoot, right? Like, I'm like, oh, if I'm going to join the military and I want to serve, then I should join the Marines because that's, the hardest branch. Or, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do a 5K because that's not manly enough. I'm going to do an Ironman. Right. Like, I think that definitely made an impact on the decisions that I made in my life. And after doing those things, I just kind of look back and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? I think the conclusion was, well, I think I am manly enough. I think what I needed to do is just accept that for what it is. Right. And, being confident and accepting kind of yourself is manly, right? Like confidence is attractive. Confidence is, sexy. It is manly, right? And like people just respond to that. So, in terms of our brand, what we want to go out with is just say, look, do you own it? And that in and of itself is manly, whatever that is, right? And so I think from a branding perspective, from a product perspective, there was a lot of opportunities that we just identified, and we just wanted to do something about it.
And dick jokes. We get to make dick jokes all day.
And dick jokes, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk about launching a. Well, my first question for you would be: is with launching a product like this, there's obviously regulations to go through. How is that journey?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say condoms are actually class 2 medical devices that are regulated by the FDA. So any condom you see on the shelves is, the manufacturer is inspected by the FDA. They've been cleared by the FDA. So we had to go through that same process ourselves. So we had to jump through a few hoops. We had to work with manufacturers that are approved by the FDA to distribute within the United States. And then we had to ourselves register with the FDA and, work on that. And there was a bit of hurdles on the way, because as products get imported into the country, it goes through customs, and then it goes through the FDA, and then sometimes they take samples and they test them again, because there is a lot of, unlike, let's say, a razor, where if a razor doesn't work, you get kind of a cut on your neck, and you're like, hey, I'm never going to use that razor. If your condom doesn't work, there could be much more, life altering sort of things that occur as a result. So we definitely don't want that, and it's great that there are some hoops to jump through, in a sense for us, because I think it provides a market where there's fewer players. There's less competition in a way than, let's say, we start an apparel brand where there's probably a million apparel brands.
Yeah. So, the way we approached it is, we went to manufacturers, and talked about how we wanted to, come up with just the best condom that we could. So we worked with a manufacturer, come out with, kind of worked on a formulation, came out with something that we really liked, and kind of piggybacked off of they have their relationships with the FDA. They have, and through that, we're able to get it cleared. It's definitely a process, but we think it's worth it.
If you're struggling with scaling your sales, maybe Electric Eye can help. Our team has helped our clients generate millions of dollars in additional revenue through our unique brand scaling framework. You can learn more about our agency at electriceye.io. That's electriceye.io. Mesa is the expansion pack for your Shopify store to level up your brand. By turning all your apps into your business epicenter, Mesa can help lighten your workload and tame the day-to-day chaos of running your store. Join successful brands like Mudwater, Chubbies, and Golden to learn how to use clever workflows to get more done without more overhead. Whether you need to order details in Google Sheets, products added on Etsy, or customer information updated in your CRM, Mesa connects your data where it's needed most. To put it quite simply, Mesa is a better way to work. Browse pre-made templates for Shopify's most popular apps to get your first automation up and running in minutes. Search Mesa, that's MESA, in the Shopify App Store and download the app today. Is your store holiday ready? Now is the time to make sure you and your team are prepared for the busy season ahead. Gorgias, an omni-channel help desk built for e-commerce, has machine learning functionality that takes the pressure off small support teams and gives them the tools to manage a large number of inquiries at scale, especially during the holiday season. Gorgias combines all your different communication channels like email, SMS, social media, live chat, and even phone into one platform and gives you an organized view of all your customer inquiries. Their powerful functionality can save your support team hours per day and makes managing customer orders a breeze. Merchants can close tickets faster than ever with the help of pre-written responses integrated with customer data to increase the overall efficiency of customer support. Their built-in automations also free up time for support agents to give better answers to complex product-related questions, providing next-level support, which helps increase sales, brand loyalty, and recognition. Eric Bandholtz, the founder of Beard Brand, says, "We're a 7-figure business, and we have essentially one person on customer support and experience. It's impossible to do it without tools such as Gorgias to help us innovate." Learn how to level up your customer support by speaking to their team. Visit gorgias.grsm.io/honest. Mention this podcast when you sign up to get 2 months free. That's gorgias.grsm.io/honest. Today's show is sponsored by the BeProfit app for e-commerce sellers. If you're looking to get a crystal clear picture of your online store's profitability, the best way to do that is with the BeProfit Profit Tracker. Your online business probably has a ton of different expenses that often shift and change. What if you could keep accurate track of things like ad spend and production costs and get an accurate profit margin calculation without the headache of spreadsheets or half-baked apps? That's where BeProfit comes in. BeProfit lets you analyze all of your store's data quickly and accurately to stay on track and optimize your profits. I know a lot of our listeners out there probably keep track of their profits and expenses with a spreadsheet. That will work for a while, but as your store starts to scale up, that simply isn't a viable method of accurately measuring profitability anymore. BeProfit can change all of that for you. Available on Shopify and all the other top e-commerce platforms, the app offers advanced analytic tools to turn mountains of data into intuitive charts and graphs in the blink of an eye. Customize your dashboard, discover valuable insights, and zoom in on the metrics that matter most to you. Take it a step further and gain full control over your data by creating and exporting custom reports. You can even find out which are your most valuable products, top performing ads, best customer cohorts, and so much more with the BeProfit Profit Tracker. Visit beprofit.co today to start your 7-day trial. Don't forget to use code HONEST15, that's HONEST15, to get an exclusive 15% off any plan you choose for the lifetime of your plan. That's beprofit.co, discount code HONEST15. Getting an online business off the ground isn't easy. So if you find yourself working late, tackling a to-do list that's a mile long with your 5th cup of coffee by your side, remember, great email doesn't have to be complicated. That's what Klaviyo is for. It's the email and SMS platform built to help e-commerce brands earn more money by creating genuine customer relationships. Once you set up your free Klaviyo account, you can start sending beautiful, branded messages in minutes thanks to drag-and-drop design templates and built-in guidance. And with e-commerce specific recommendations and insights, you can keep growing your business as you go. Get started with a free account at klaviyo.com/honest. That's KLAVIYO.com/HONEST. And you spoke a little bit earlier about all these legacy brands that were just entrenched. And, you know, I agree that a lot of legacy brands, they spend more money on marketing than they do product innovation. I know you guys did some new, unique things with innovation. So I'll give you some kind of shine the product right now.
So overall, like the way we like to pitch it, we say, look, like you won't know that it's on. And actually we have a lot of reviews. We have like over, 500 reviews, and a lot of them talk about how they really can't tell. Like some of them will say, I thought it came off, so I pulled out and I checked and it was on. It's like, to see if it was still there because I was freaking out, but it was still there. And so overall, that's what we, that was our goal, right? Like, because one, we just don't want to take away from the experience. Two, it's, so it doesn't smell. Like going along with the experience, like, when you open up a Trojan or these other brands, it's like you just hit with a waft of like latex, right? And it's something I never really noticed, but what we found is that it's in the process of making the latex. There's a dairy byproduct called casein that's used by these legacy brands, and that's actually what makes it smell like latex. It's not the latex itself. So that just draws it out even more. So by bypassing the casein, one, it's vegan, so I think it opens it up to a different market. But two, it just makes it not smell as bad. You could hardly smell like our condoms, so it doesn't take away from the experience in that perspective. And then lastly, it doesn't have like nitrosamines or glycerin, paraben, like all these other ingredients that, these other condom brands use. But ours don't have that. So it's just better ingredients. It doesn't smell. It just feels a lot better. And so the idea is you could have safe sex, but it feels like regular sex. So that's pretty much it.
All right, so you've got a market that you're ready to penetrate. You've got a great product that you're going to. How do you take this product to market? How do you launch a brand like this online?
I mean, I think we launched with a lot of ideas, and we thought that, all right, this is going to be great. I've got experience working with huge brands on Facebook and Instagram. And honestly, we launched and there was no reaction whatsoever. It was just like getting punched in the mouth. We were like, this is going to be huge. This is going to be amazing. And then the reaction just wasn't there. And what we learned is that the number one thing, obviously, in our product category is just building trust. And as a new brand with no reviews, with nothing that proves what we're trying to claim, it was just really hard. In our product category, it was very, very difficult. But, over time, developing that trust, getting that customer feedback, getting those reviews in, getting, ranked by Men's Health and other PR, sort of pieces out there, it actually really helps because now it develops trust. We get, reviewers, we have people who are, sex experts, things like that. We just do honest reviews of products online and we keep on ranking, we keep on showing up. And I think over time that trust just sort of really, it builds a huge halo effect around what you're trying to say. Because now what we're saying in our ads matches when people land on our website, matches if they search for us, they look for us on Amazon, all across the board. The reviews are great. The feedback is great. There are articles about us. So it takes time, but developing that trust, developing that customer feedback loop and kind of building it up over time, it actually, it expands your growth over time. So it actually accelerates, quite a bit. But the start is really, really difficult. I mean, it's for any brand, but especially in our category, it's like, what is going to make someone try a new condom brand? To Rob's point, like men generally, if you ask them about condoms, they talk about how much they hate them. But are they really going to switch a brand that's worked for them for 5 years, 10 years? They really haven't had any issues. That leap of faith, that takes a little bit more work on our side, kind of building and developing trust and developing a reputation for making quality products.
Absolutely. Now, in the that launching phase, in getting things off the ground, is there any mistakes that you made? Anything that comes to mind that you kind of want to be like, hey, don't do this?
I think, yes, like we made a lot of mistakes, or just, I don't know if they're mistakes. They're just things that we just didn't do as well as we could have or should have. And I think you just kind of have to see it as like a learning process, right? Like, because you have your first website and you're like, you have no idea if it's going to convert, right? Like you think it converts and will convert, but you have no idea, right? And I think it's just the process, right? Like like understanding what is a customer looking for, to get that conversion rate from I think of a 0.25 to like I think it's like 5 to 7% right now for us, so that's a learning process. Like, I don't think that we could feel confident about what we're doing right now if we didn't do all those things before, because you have to try different things in order to feel confident and understand like what you're doing right versus what you're doing wrong. So I think at least my advice would just be, there's no real right and wrong. It's just, are you heading in the right direction? And, you have the right mindset, and mentality versus, hey, do this, do that, like tactics. It's because it's just a learning process.
Also, I think with the website, that's probably the biggest one, where we launched thinking we have a website that's a work of art, and realistically, it just didn't convert. And so understanding those steps that it takes, and kind of like, listening to podcasts like yours even, and finding out like, hey, it's not the brand that has the most beautiful website that's converting the best. And actually what matters to us is to convert the best as we're building a business. And so you do things that maybe aesthetically you're like, I don't know why, this is something that would help. But in reality, hey, like it helps. Like, we had a really funny GIF when we first launched our website. The first thing you saw was this very entertaining, I would say, GIF. And the thing is, like, people would look at it and then bounce, just repeatedly bounce. And we were like, man, but this is so funny. Where do we include it? And to this day, we haven't figured out where to include it or how to include it, bring it back. But once we removed it, our conversion rate went up, and that's kind of what mattered at the time.
Absolutely. And I am thankful that you kind of shared and it kind of came back at me with, they weren't really mistakes. They were learning opportunities. And I think, that just instills, it's like, just make a decision, because what that says is like, you're not going to ruin your business by making the wrong decision. It's just, you're going to learn from it, and then you're going to correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's not like, hey, you put something out there and then boom, like that's it. Like, no, you should be working on it and iterating and learning and, just improving on it all the time, so that's kind of that's the approach that we take to what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think as an entrepreneur, your brand feels like your baby, and you don't want to do things that are going to ruin your brand or, affect your brand. But realistically, unless you're Nike, Apple, those types of brands, every little thing you do isn't going to reach the masses at this point. You have the ability, that's your main advantage against these massive companies, is your speed and your ability to iterate and try different things, because it's much more difficult for the incumbents to try those types of things or do those types of things. They're slower moving. So if you don't move faster, you have no advantage as a startup. So, we have to start somewhere, and Chase, to your point, we have to just choose an answer, knowing that we might have to change it in a week. We might have to change it in a day if things, didn't go in the direction we wanted. But we have the ability to do that. And we have a mindset that says we're going to make those changes as quickly as we need to in order to get things going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you about today that you think would resonate with our audience?
I have something. I think the brand is like a representation of you, and I think you have to think about, or you should think about, or maybe about, or I should think about, how to present myself, right? Like, there are times, like, let's say when we have like an ad and people comment on them, there are definitely very inappropriate comments that come in that are just not like, I would love to respond to them in a very mean way. Let's just put it like that way. But, I just hold back. And because it's the brand is a representation of who you are. And, I'm like, and that actually helps me be a better person, right? Because I'm like, maybe I just don't need to engage everybody, and I think that's definitely helped. But always think of the brand as like you, right? Like, and in terms of, but on the other side, it's like, what are your strengths, right? And because that's what you want to play on for your brand. Like, that's, as a founder, in a very early stage, product and brands, like it's going to take on who you are. So you have to understand, like, what are your strengths and how can you impart that onto the brand so that people are just going to like it. And I think that's something to think about. So understand, what are your negatives that you don't want to get out there? What are the positives that you do want to get out there? Because that is a reflection of you.
Raj, anything to add?
No, I think I think for us, it's really just about building the trust with the relationship with the customer is kind of everything. So to Rob's point, those comments, they make a big difference, and you have to hold back. You have to be measured in your responses, and kind of understand that you're building this not for the immediate clap back, the clout you get from that clap back, that sort of thing. Although we do that a fair amount sometimes. But I think that, we're really just building this for the next 5-10 years and seeing how we can develop this brand into something that lives outside of us as well. So it's something that, having the mentality that, hey, we're not in this for just the quickie, we're actually in this for the long haul.
And I think the other side, not to say that every comment that we get is like terrible. I think that's an exaggeration, right? Like, actually, most of our comments are great. And I think that's actually what helped us build our brand, because, our interactions with people who have fun comments and then just kind of building that rapport is what made them say, hey, like, this is a cool brand, or this, these people, I could actually trust them because I'm interacting with them. And building that relationship is what made them make that purchase and take that kind of leap of faith to say, I'm going to try a new condom, and then that's kind of what started this whole, the ball rolling down the hill. So I think it's like, knowing that, hey, like, I think me saying, all right, I'm not going to respond to this one. but I will respond to that one. And that's actually led to a lot of positive things for us. And I think that's kind of what, I think that's one thing that I think people should keep in mind.
Absolutely. Now, for the people that are curious, where should they go to actually check out the product and the website that we've been talking about?
If you go to psgoodtimes.com.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Chase.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. It's been great.
All right. I can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own business. You can find all the links in the show notes. Make sure you head over to honestecommerce.co to check out all of the other amazing content that we have. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and obviously, if you're thinking about growing your business, check out our agency at electriceye.io. Until next time.